Hello and welcome to today's video. So today I am going to be doing a video that I do pretty much every year, and this year it is 23 books to read in 2023. For the past couple of years I have not managed to read this many books in a year, but I still love making this list. It kind of helps me prioritize my bookshelf, as well as I think it's just fun to see what I would like to read versus what I actually end up reading. A couple of the books I don't have here with me. They are still over at my parents' house. I had been staying with them while my dad's car was in the shop so he could use my car, so I took a big bag of books over so that I could do a little bit of reading while I was staying over there. But any books that I don't have, I will put the cover over here. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Per usual, these books are in no particular order, but the first book that I have is The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins. So this book is a prequel to the Hunger Games series. I believe it follows President Snow and how the Capitol came to be. Don't quote me on that. It's been a long time since I read the synopsis, but I loved the Hunger Games series back in the day, and I feel like it's not complete until I finish the prequel. The next book that I have is Big Boned by Jo Watson. So in this story we have a plus size female main character. I believe her name is Linda. That was so wrong. Her name is Lori, and Lori ends up having to transfer schools her senior year and feels just very out of place in this brand new school where looks are prioritized over anything else. So Lori is very artsy and she considers her artistic talent to be the most interesting thing about her. However, no one has taken the time to get to know her beneath the surface. And so she kind of just decides she's going to spend her senior year fading into the background until, of course, we have our male love interest, whose name is Jake. So Lori and Jake end up at the same time, at the same place kind of situation, and I am not sure exactly what happens from there, but I'm excited to find out. I love the representation of this, and I'm just excited. The next book on this list is How to Make Friends with the Dark by Kathleen Glasgow. I had this book on the list. I don't know if it was last year and the year before, but it's definitely been on one of the lists before. However, I am still just as excited to read this. It follows the story of Tiger and her mother were inseparable duo, and then her mother unexpectedly passes. So it deals with grief and just kind of the overcompensating feeling of grief, and I feel like that one's really gonna hit me hard. I'm kind of glad I waited until this point in my life to read it. I'm tired of saying, I feel like I keep saying I'm excited to read it, but I think I'm ready to go on an emotional journey on this one. The next book that I have is Flower Crowns and Fearsome Things by Amanda Lovelace. So I don't remember when this book came out, but I totally forgot. It was on my shelf, which is the problem with having such disorganized shelves. Amanda Lovelace is one of my favorite poets, one of my favorite people to follow on social media. I love her so much. So I can't believe there's a book that I own that I haven't read by her, but this year it will definitely be the year. Next up, we have a book that has been on many a TBR of mine, and that is Part of Your World by Liz Braswell, one of her Twisted Tales. I have always wanted to get into her Twisted Tales series. This book was gifted to me by a fellow author and a fellow friend, Ali Novak, and I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty daunting book. It's a pretty thick one. It is clocking in at just under 500 pages, but I love The Little Mermaid. It is probably hands down my favorite Disney princess movie, and so especially with the live action remake in the works, I just feel like it is a good time to finally pick this one up. Next up, I have It Won't Be Christmas Without You by Beth Reekles. So I am not really a Christmas book reader. I don't read books based on the season, but last year or the year before, again, I apologize, I don't remember, but I decided that I wanted to be a Christmas book girly, and I ordered this. It didn't come in for several months. So by the time it did come in, Christmas was long over, and I never picked it up. So I believe Christmas this year, I'm at least going to try and read one holiday festive book. So I want it to be this one. So this story follows a girl named Eloise who is Christmas obsessed, and her neighbor Jamie, who is essentially the Grinch. And then we have Kara, who is Eloise's sister, who has moved to London, and Kara could care less about the holiday. She's more interested in what secrets her boyfriend George is keeping from her. So all in all, it feels like we follow a few different characters throughout the holiday season, and I'm sure they will somehow come together in the end, but I just think it sounds so cute and fun and like a fun little family holiday read. Next on this list is Every Last Word by Tamara Ireland Stone. So this follows the story of Sam, who has been diagnosed with purely obsessive compulsive disorder. I believe that is the full term, but it follows the story of Sam, who is part of the mean girl popular crowd at school and has been hiding her diagnosis her entire life from her friend group, and it's just getting to be a lot for her when she meets Caroline. And Caroline is someone she would definitely never stray toward a friendship with. She doesn't dress the same, she doesn't act the same, but Sam kind of finds herself gravitating toward Caroline and discovering this brand new world she didn't know existed, where she can be completely herself. So I'm definitely intrigued by the premise of this, and I love mental health representation in books, so I'm excited to see what this one's all about. Next we have I Kiss Sarah Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. So Casey McQuiston is one of my favorite authors. Red, White, and Royal Blue is one of my favorite reads of all time. And last year I read One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston, which didn't quite rank the same as Red, White, and Royal Blue. There were a few choices in that book that were interesting ones, but I pre-ordered Sarah Wheeler, of course. It is her first YA, and I have had it since I pre-ordered it, but I'm still just excited to read it as I was when I ordered it. So this story follows, I believe, Casey. Again, I don't know why names are not sitting with me today. This follows Chloe, and Chloe has made it to her senior year, and the only thing she wants to do is graduate valedictorian, and her biggest rival is Sarah Wheeler. One night, Sarah Wheeler unexpectedly kisses Chloe and then disappears, and that's when Chloe finds out she is not the only person who got kissed by Sarah Wheeler before her disappearance. So she teams up with about 3 other people who they have nothing in common except Sarah Wheeler, and they try to find her after her disappearance. So I think this sounds really fun and interesting, and it's just like a cute little YA, I think, that I can't wait to get into. Next on this list, we have The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I know that the hype for this book is over. I saw it all over BookTube a couple of years ago, and then everyone read it, so like there's no hype about it anymore because like people already read it. But I didn't read it at the time, and I have a running list of like a book wish list, and my brother picked this one up for me for my birthday back in August. So I am super excited to finally find out what all the hype is about The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I don't know much about the story, and I kind of want to keep it that way, but what I do know is that Evelyn Hugo was like a big actress of her time, and she invites or allows a journalist to come in and kind of sits down and gives her her entire life story, which from what I think is kind of a crazy one. So that is all that I know. It could be completely wrong, but that is all that I want to know before I dive into it. Next up, I have the Winter Soldier Complete Collection by Ed Brubaker, and this is a bunch of comics all in one. So it's the complete collection that follows the Winter Soldier after he has been deprogrammed and is fighting alongside of Natasha, or the Black Widow. So I've been getting into comic books over the past couple of years, and this one is a pretty thick one, but I am excited. The Winter Soldier is my favorite topic in comics to read about, which is why I bought the complete collection, and I feel like this year is the year I'm finally just gonna dive into it. And then I have When the Stars Wrote Back by Trista Mateer. So this is another poetry collection. This one I had a really hard time getting my hands on. I don't know if Trista pulled it from the shelves or what happened. I ended up getting a library copy. I've heard really good things about it, and I just feel like I love Tristan Matier. Like, if Amanda Lovelace is my top, honestly, Tristan might either be ranked second or right up there with Amanda. Like, I've loved all of her poetry. Last year I read Aphrodite made me do it, and I believe it's Artemis made me do it. And I love that series. I've already pre-ordered the next one, which is Persephone, but I really want to dive into When the Stars Wrote Back. And really anything Trista has written, I want to get my hands on. Next, I have It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. I don't think this book comes as a surprise to anyone. I feel like everyone has already read it. Colleen Hoover has been a big topic of conversation over the past couple of months. I read It Ends With Us back in 2020 during the height of the pandemic, and I thought it was a very strong read and very insightful on abusive relationships and why, you know, on the outside when we look at an abusive relationship and we say, you know, just leave, that stories like that really put into perspective that how difficult that is and how that just isn't a fair expectation to have. And so It Starts With Us, I believe, is just like a sequel to It Ends With Us, where it picks up where It Ends With Us left off, and we kind of follow the tumultuous relationship between Lily and Ryle, and then with Lily and Atlas. So I don't want to give too much away by talking about this sequel if you haven't read It Ends With Us, so that's all I'm going to say on that. Next, I have The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. This has been on many TBR of mine, and I still am just excited to read it now, as I was, I think the first time this came on a TBR was in 2019. I am not big on fantasy, so it's never something I gravitate toward, which is why I try and play Bookopoly so that I kind of have to broaden my horizons a little bit. But if I am just picking books off my shelf, I don't gravitate toward any sort of fantasy. But I think this one sounds really good and something that I would like. What I know about this story is very little. It was recommended to me, again, by Ali Novak, but I know that has angst. I love a good angsty male character, and I know that there's at least one or two in this book. So that is why it was recommended to me, and that is all that I know, but I still have high hopes that I will really like it. Next is a book I am embarrassed is still on this TBR after how many times I have said that I will absolutely be reading it, and that is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. I don't even feel like I need to summarize this one again. I feel like I've summarized it 1,000 times on my channel because I keep putting this book on TBRs and I keep not reading it. But basically, this story follows Kath, who is a big Simon Snow fan and I believe she writes fan fiction, and her twin sister. They go to college together, and her twin sister no longer wants to room with her. She wants to go off and explore her own identity, which Kath never anticipated. So that kind of leaves her in a spin as they are heading off to college. So I feel like this would have been a really great book for me to read back in like the 2015-16 era when I felt like I was kind of spiraling a little bit in college. But I still feel like I'll enjoy it just as much now. Next on this list is Heartstruck by Rebecca Skye. So again, a few years back, I read Arrowheart by Rebecca Skye, and I really liked it, and I pre-ordered the sequel, and now we're here in 2023, and I didn't pick up the sequel, which is honestly the story of my life. I always get really hyped for sequels and then never read them. This story essentially picks up where Arrowheart left off, so again, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but we follow Rachel's journey as Arrowheart left on a bit of a cliffhanger, and we are following Rachel as she basically tries to escape this newfound captivity that she has found herself in, which is kind of all I want to say so that I don't spoil it. But I definitely recommend this series. It is really cute, and I can't wait to pick up the sequel. Next, I have The Song of Achilles. I don't know much about this story other than it has been compared to like Percy Jackson but for adults, which is very exciting to me because I loved Percy Jackson when I was in like the middle school era. They're currently doing a TV series for Percy Jackson, and I know I'm talking about Percy Jackson a lot. The Song of Achilles has been compared to that, and so that is really all that I know about this story, is that It has Greek god representation, like they, okay. Other than it deals with the Greek gods and has been compared. So that is why I'm excited to read it. Next on this list is, again, a book that has been on many of these lists, and that is Fans of the Impossible Life by Kate Selsa. I feel silly, again, talking about this book and summarizing it when I've done so many times. I believe this one also first came on a TBR in 2019. But I am still excited to read it, and I think it has really great representation, and I want to read it. So I'm gonna make 2023 the year that we get through some of these 2019 TBR books. So this follows a group of friends. We have Mira, who has just gotten out of a stay at the hospital due to her depression and is getting back into her school life. We have Sebi, who is Mira's gay best friend, who is a foster child, and Mira feels like Sebi lights up her entire world and is one of her only reasons for existence. And then we have Jeremy, who is a quiet art kid who also loves Sebi. So it sounds like Sebi is pretty central to this story, but we have these three teenagers who all have secrets to keep and are trying to live an impossible life of normalcy. So I think that this book is set up to have really good mental health representation, and I am going to read it. Next, we have Our Dark Duet by V.E. Schwab. So this is, again, a sequel. So this is the sequel to This Savage Song by V.E. Schwab, and we continue to follow August and Kate. So without giving too much away, there is a war on monsters, humans versus monsters, and Kate is full human, August is full monster, and in this savage song they end up meeting and discovering that maybe there's more to this story than they thought. So that is where we pick up in Our Dark Duet. I read this savage song in 2019. I do think I'm gonna need to reread that one before I dive into this one, just for expectation purposes. But I loved this savage song. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's one of my all-time favorite reads, and so I have been excited about the sequel. It's just one of those things where, like, I never gravitate toward fantasy or sequels, so I had that going against it. Next is a book I feel like I would be doing my teenage self a disservice if I don't read it, and that is Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. Twilight changed the game for me. Twilight is when it went from, like, I love reading to, like, I am part of a fandom now. And so I created a Twilight book club in my middle school, and I loved all of the books and all of the movies. I saw them all on opening weekend in theater, and that was like my personality for a little while. I think it's safe to say I have moved past my Twilight fan days, but when Midnight Sun was released, it did spark that need inside of me to complete. So Midnight Sun is Twilight but told in Edward's point of view, and I don't feel like I need to summarize Twilight. I feel like everybody and their brother knows what Twilight is on at least a surface level, but I just feel like I would be doing myself, my 13-year-old self, a disservice if I didn't read Midnight Sun. Because all of us back in the day remember when the first 10 chapters of this book were leaked online, and the author said she would never write it. She couldn't believe someone would do that to her, and she completely stopped all production of Midnight Sun. So the scandal is so real. Next is Girls of Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. So I have owned this book. I pre-ordered this book when it came out, which I don't remember what year that was anymore. But first of all, the cover, she's gorgeous. Do we choose books based on covers? A lot of the time, yes. So I saw a lot of hype about it on social media. I saw the cover and just pre-ordered, and I know 0 things about it. So I don't think I'm looking to know anything about it. I like where I am right now with it. There are some books I like going into blind because I feel like the synopsis would just spoil too much for me, and that is how I feel about this book. I don't know why. I've never read the synopsis. I just feel like I would like it if I just dove right into it. The next book I have is Blackout by Angie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk, and Nicola Yoon. Oh, there's more. Danielle Clayton, Tiffany Jackson, Nick Stone. So from what I understand, this is like an interconnected novel. I'm not sure if it's an anthology or just 6 different stories written around the same. That would still be an anthology. I don't have a ton of information on how the 6 authors all intertwine within the book, other than that there are 6 stories. But I saw this at Barnes & Noble, hence the little Barnes & Noble exclusive sticker, and I just knew that I needed to read it, so I'm excited to do so. And last but certainly not least, the final book on this list is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. I don't feel like I need to explain this one. I feel like the hype that around this book is enough. This is also a book I have not read the synopsis of, and I plan on keeping it that way. And I am buddy reading this book with my best friend. So this one is definitely happening in 2023, but I am just really excited. Like, it's one of my best friend's favorite books. The hype around it is so real, and I just want to be on the hype train with everyone else. And those are the 23 books that I would like to read in 2023. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more content, and I will see you guys again very soon. Bye!